A lot of the things that I've kind of come to from being in this group and something that was missing in my network locally, I felt there's obviously people local that are great people, but a lot of times you just don't have the ability to share things the way that you do in this group. I've had some pretty interesting conversations with guys in their business or in my business, how we can help each other, things like that. Um, it's also I've started to focus more on my health physically, um, and had improvements in that. So that'd probably be my two biggest takeaways that I've had from it, Zach. That
No,
have
that's
been
it.
life changing.
I love it, man. And for anyone that's listening, like that's what this channel is all about, is like the journey to the top 1%. It's like, how do we get there? It's like 1% better daily. And, so it's throughout this process that like you might have a piece of the puzzle, but not the whole puzzle yet. So there's missing pieces. And so we're always looking to find a way to complete that puzzle and then move on to whatever the next challenge is. So, no, I love it, bro. Like, why don't you tell the guys who you are and what you're doing? Let's just get into this.
My name's Dave McDyer. I'm a mobile tool distributor of Snap-on Tools. Our company's McDyer Tools. We service Southwest Minnesota, Northwest Iowa. Service about 2,000 customers weekly. We run 4 trucks, and then I help support my team, with the infrastructure that's behind that. Um, got two beautiful kids and a wife that is as driven as I am, and yeah, so we stay busy and we're always doing stuff and love to hunt and fish and love to have fun. So
I love it, man. I know I'm gonna have to get up there and see the compound here before too long.
yeah, yeah.
So like we were just talking just off air about some of this. You kind of mentioned like, all right, like, and I'm a little biased because I have some conversations with you in person on calls and stuff. So like I know a little bit more about you than potentially some of the listeners. And probably something that you wouldn't just outright say, but like you're not hurting, right? Like you have worked really hard to get to where you are, and there's signs to it, right? I made a joke on Facebook a couple weeks ago or something. I was like, can we change the term can't hide money? Can we change that to like can't hide work ethic, right? Because like when you see, and I even think we fucking had a conversation with you about this exact topic, like, hey, listen, at a certain point you have certain assets, people notice, right? And
Yep.
but throughout this process, you mentioned earlier, like there was multiple different facets to Uncaged that has actually impacted your life. And so like coming from someone that like already has accomplished a lot, like you were someone to put your ego aside and realize like there is still plenty of room for improvement in other areas. Like what's that kind of been like for you? Because I have a feeling based on some previous conversations we've had and what you kind of just led into with locally, it's just been a little bit more difficult to find than it is virtually, right?
Yep.
That like, some people in smaller towns, I'll say, and I'm saying this from my personal experience, not your words, is you get those people that make that first two, three, 400 grand a year, and bro, you can't tell them shit. Their shit don't stink, bro. So what's that journey kind of been like for you? Like reaching success in multiple areas of your life, but then understanding that there's still room for growth in other areas of your life as well.
I mean, initially when I started out as a single franchise, I started with the plan of like I just wanted to be my own boss, right? The way that I always kind of start off with it is like I may only be able to keep 10 cents of every dollar, but at least I know where the other 90 cents went. And I just was wanting to start my own thing. And when I started to go down this path, was successful, realized I was doing things a little bit different than other Snap-on dealers were doing. I had the support of my wife, which is huge. I mean, we lived off of her income for my first 2 years of my business, and I'll use the old Dave Ramsey, live like no one else, so you can live like no one else. That's basically what we did in the business side of things, and that's allowed us to perpetuate. And one thing that I kind of found with Uncaged that I really like, most everybody wants to see everybody succeed in that group, right? Um, and like in that group, we have a bunch of people that are in insurance and stuff, and it's not like everybody's kind of fighting to try and capture that revenue because there's so many people in the world that they can do business with. It doesn't matter. So everybody's kind of setting their initial, like, I got to sell this to this dude now because he needs it because I got to make money. And we're ultimately trying to help everybody become better. So that aligned really well with what my beliefs and values were in that. Um, Once I took the step to become, a multi-franchise owner, it really opened my eyes to, hey, you can do more than what you initially started with. And I think this aligns with that as well, where I'm like, maybe an opportunity is going to come up that I can partner with somebody in a different state, in a different type of business, whether it's capital, whether it's ideas, think tanking things like that, and just help everybody grow. And yeah, maybe I make some money on it. Maybe I don't. Maybe I just make some good friends out of it. You know what I mean? And help everybody prosper and become better humans. So,
There's a few things I want to unpack from that. I'm gonna have to take notes so I don't forget.
yeah.
But like for you, you're kind of in a weird industry. You're kind of stuck between white collar and blue collar. Like, can you tell us, like, because I don't think we've really have anyone that's as niched down in such a very unique industry as you are. Like, how do you get into something like this? Because, like, for example, like it's not like, you know, you started out as a mechanic and then you're like, cool, like I want to own
Yeah.
a mechanic shop. And you start that one, then you're like, then I want to franchise that mechanic shop. Like this is a very unique business model. Like how'd you stumble into all that?
I've always kind of had a passion for vehicles, when I lived on the East Coast, I worked at a performance parts. Like, my joke is before the Fast and the Furious was the Fast and the Furious, we were the Fast and the Furious. We'd go illegally drag race down in Philly and all kinds of stuff and get chased across the bridge. And yeah, it was so some of that stuff is in my I'm 7 years removed from it, so they can't come after me now, right? But so that's cars and performance have always been part of me. I like fast vehicles and stuff like that. And I was just looking for something different to do and build my own business. I hated my job. I was selling printers and copiers. My dad had passed away. I think I got about 100 grand after his debts and everything were all settled. So I had a little bit of seed money that was sitting there, and I think I started. I think it was 80 grand, or I don't remember. It was something, and that those franchise fees have changed now, right? But so I started down that path, and it just fit. I was in management. I was in retail sales previously, managed men's warehouses, sold business to business sales as well. Um, and this just aligned really well. I've ended up having a lot of people ask me how my success was, referred people to the business, et cetera, et cetera. And their initial concern was, well, God, I'm not going to make it because I'm not a mechanic. I don't know how to fix stuff. And my answer was, well, I sold suits. So, as long as you're in the people business and you're servicing the customer, you're going to be successful at stuff. And the franchise system allowed me to kind of have a little bit of guardrails, if you will, that kept me going down the right path. I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I was scared to death the first week because you got random people you don't know, and you're basically borrowing them money interest free, and you're thinking, just trust the process, man. Just trust the process, and it's been good. But yeah, at the time, I was scared to death. But I think that's entrepreneurship in itself is if you're not scared, you should be scared because then stuff can go off the rails really quick.
No, for sure. And so I'm glad you said that because it's literally the most beautiful segue into what I wanted to ask you. Because here we are with another fucking unique perspective from Dave McDyer. Um, is okay. So rest in peace. God love his soul. Your father passed away.
Yep.
And I'm making some assumptions here because I actually
Yep.
don't know this much of your past like this. Um, I'm assuming up to this point, 100 grand in the bank is the most amount of money you've had, like
Oh,
liquid.
dude, yeah. I mean, to put it in context, at that time in my life, like I don't even think Jess was working when my father passed away. I mean, this was what early 2000s ish. I mean, I started the franchise in 2010. Decided to start to go down the path in I think 2009. Um, it was a ton of money, and the thing that kind of struck me with my dad, he was diagnosed with colon cancer, stage 4, metastasized was liver and lungs. He was going to die from cancer. He ended up rolling a tractor. He felt good one day. He was making a planter box behind his house, rolled a tractor and killed himself. Terrible, terrible thing. In hindsight, it was the best thing that ever happened because he didn't suffer everything. Like it was a good thing, a blessing in disguise, if you will.
Yeah.
So it put a different sense in that monetary aspect in my eyes. To think that a person that's 65 years old, everything they did in their entire career for 40 years is worth 150 grand or whatever. And then, you settle their debts and you're like, I got this pile of cash or this check, and this is all that my relative is worth.
Hmm.
And it put a lot of weight and pressure on me, which I'm glad it did because if I would have just had somebody borrow me money that, or a grandma or something that gifted me money, I don't think it would have had the same drive behind it to kind of put that burn in your chest that you're like, I gotta make this succeed. Um, I had so much time in that like at the time I'm thinking if I fuck this up, dad's gone and the money, you
So
know?
I'm glad you said that, and I want to stop you right there because you're moving exactly where I want you to with this, because the conviction, like the unique perspective I'm looking for here is there's clearly fear on every side of getting into entrepreneurship, right? Making that leap of faith. There's a huge, there's a huge fear based around like leaving a secure 9 to 5, like guaranteed income, whatever.
Yep. There's
Into
no guarantees. Nothing's
right,
guaranteed.
exactly. Dude, my perspective has shifted so much now that I've been in entrepreneurship as long as I am, and like I've seen good and bad of corporate America, good and bad of like business, is I have more faith in working for an entrepreneur than I do like a corporate company.
Yeah.
Like many times I've seen corporate companies come in and clear a house because
Yep.
of things we're not going to get in on this. So anyways,
Private equity, baby. Yeah.
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 But so there's the fear of like leaving the security and like having zero money to start.
Yep.
Whereas your perspective, I want to hear is exactly what you just said. Like, motherfucker, you took 80% of the money your dad left you and you said, fucking, we're all in. Like, so
Yeah.
now it is do or die. Like, so now there's fear attached. If I fuck this up, I lose my father's legacy, right?
Yep.
Like, so what was that motherfucking
So, uh, so not saying you're wrong, but you're wrong.
okay?
I put all of it in. I mean,
Okay.
it was all the way, right? And because I settled some of his debts and we literally, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think I had a Toyota Tacoma or not Tacoma, Toyota Tundra pickup that I had like I don't know, a $12,000 loan or $10,000 loan, and I paid that off. So we literally had about, I'm going to say 70 to 80 grand, right? And that's pretty much what your franchise fee cost is and all your inputs right out of the gate. Well, uh, I went and rode with another Snap-on dealer down in Storm Lake, Iowa. His name's John Schmidt, runs a fantastic business, had been in business for 20 plus years when I rode with him. And rode with him, had a great ride, but man, I was just scared to death. And I kind of stepped away from it. And he actually reached out to the recruiter and was like, You guys have had a ton of people come ride with me. Dave's the best one I've ever had come ride with me. He was asking questions, the customers. Like I remember I was, hey, what do I need to do to be a successful Snap-on dealer? Like I was asking the customers. I didn't care what John said. I wanted to know what they said, right? And so I'm asking that of every single customer I had an opportunity to ask. And so he relays this to the corporate recruiter guys. They're like, "Hey, we want to come out and meet with you." So Jess and I were sitting in our little two-bedroom ranch house, little starter home, $100,000 house in Sibley, Iowa, and it's a little eat-in kitchen, and they're sitting there and they tell me this story, and Jess is sitting to my right, and I look over at her and I'm like, "Babe, if we fail, we bought a Cadillac Escalade we never got to drive." Because at that time, a Cadillac Escalade was about 80 grand, 70 grand. And she looked at me and she's like, "Let's do it." And so I said, okay. And I shook their hand and we were off to the races. Um, you go off to training. It's a pretty cool experience. It's not as intense now as it used to be. I mean, yeah, it was pretty funny. I sound like an old man talking about it, but we go to training and like I had set my weekly break even and I told everybody my weekly break even and they're like they think I'm nuts. They think I'm absolutely crazy. And lo and behold, we come back. I think you go back like 3 months later. And I didn't know this, but you go and they're putting numbers up on the board, right? Well, the numbers up on the board are the guys or gals that are there. So like it's Zach, it's Dave, it's Steve, it's Tom, but we don't know it's Zach, Dave, Steve, and Tom. So this one guy pops up there and they're showing these numbers, and I'm like, that dude's going out of business. He ain't gonna be around, and that's just who I am. I'm gonna say it how it is. And we get through everything and we go out into the aisle, the hallway, and this guy just comes at me and he's just like berserker ballistic. But he knew by his trainer told him, your numbers are going to be up there. I didn't know that, right? And I'm like, dude, I didn't know it was you. And he was all offended. And so I went and the trainer's there and he's like, "Hey, it's fine, it's fine." I'm like, "No, I'm sorry, I didn't know that." And I'm like, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" I'm like, "How am I doing?" And the trainer says to me, he goes, "I'm glad not everybody's you." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Well, if everybody was you, I wouldn't have a job because we wouldn't be training people and we wouldn't have turnover." He's like, "You're going to be just fine." And dude, I I might start crying now, but I started like tearing up and told him about how I got into it and that, my father's money started it and this and that. And it was like at that moment, I was like, this is where I'm supposed to go. And I already was there and I was already doing it, but it definitely made me realize that, like, yep, just keep grinding, keep working hard. So,
That's cool.
but
Man, I've been blessed to have a lot of conversations with you, and I don't know if it comes from age and wisdom. I don't know if it comes from success and like, or let's call it learning lessons or what, but like you're proud of yourself and you're confident and like where does that kind of come from? Because, again, I know a lot about you that maybe the average listener doesn't, but like, albeit you have a lot of nice stuff. Um, and you're comfortable with where you are, and it also doesn't take a lot to make you happy, as far as like the gratitude you have for the things that you have currently and have earned. What How did you end up in this headspace, right? Because here's someone who has earned a lot and has earned, let me say, earned it all. Like you specifically earned it.
yep.
I don't look at 100 grand from your dad being like the Donald Trump, like, oh, it's a small loan
Yeah,
for
right.
$1 million. Like, I don't see it as all that. So like you've
Right.
earned all this. Like what's this like headspace like like, because it sounds to me like you were scared and timid and maybe didn't even know what the future held, to now, like, you are confident, you are proud of the things that you've accomplished and the things that you have. What was like that journey mentally for you?
Um, gosh, that's a hard question. I've always been pretty confident. Um, I think with my parents getting divorced, me moving from being born here in the Midwest, moving to the East Coast, going from, a graduating class of 30 to 50 kids to having racial riots and 500 kids in a grade. And, so like adaptability was something that I just came through in natural osmosis. I had to learn that when my father was alive. He was a salesman. So, like, dude, when I was a kid, I'm talking like pre-kindergarten, I'd go on sales calls with him. Like, I remember almost drowning in a hotel because I jumped in the deep end. I wasn't supposed to be in the deep end,
What he
And
sell?
what's that?
What did he sell?
So he worked for 3M.
Okay.
So 3M, and it's not 3M, don't think like tape and adhesives like it is now. His claim to fame was is he sold the first plain paper fax machines for 3M in North America. He sold like I have to try and find. I got a plaque that's
Okay.
his old plaque in the basement somewhere, but it's like he sold like four copy machines for $80,000 in 1980 to like the Nebraska Railroad or something crazy like that, or 30 grand, or yeah, it was pretty wild. But that was tech back then,
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
uh, so a lot of that overcoming objections and hurdles I saw that all the time. I kind of joke like the old Tom Hopkins stuff. Like I had to close. My dad was a salesman. So if I wanted a four-wheeler or a bike or whatever, I had to find a way to make him see value in it that he would buy that for me. So it was just something that you just naturally did in life. And then in turn, that's what we do now. And it's things like that I mean, my kids, Lincoln will come up to me and he's like, "Okay, Dad, I got a business proposition." And it's like, dude, it's not a business proposition. You want me to buy you a pair of shoes, but um, yeah. So
Oh, dude, I love it, man. And you had made a comment earlier, and it's again ironic enough that we were talking about this offline or off air, and you had mentioned like the relationships, right? And I know how much you care about your relationships because I also hear um how you speak about the people that you're around, like literally physically and stuff like that. And even, the good and the bad, right?
yep.
And we all deal with that in entrepreneurship, especially in sales and stuff. But one of the things you had talked about is like giving back. And like when I hear that, for me, it's all like relationship building, it's all the power of relationships. Again, sales, we get that. Um, but realistically, like this is how I feel, and I'd like to hear your version of it, especially, you are from the Midwest. I'm mostly like big cities, and people are abundant, right?
Yep.
Like I have a hard time not being seen, um whereas like what's the journey been like for you, in because when I hear you say like, okay, cool, I want to be able to give back, and maybe something comes from it, maybe it doesn't. In my mind, I'm always like, there will always be some sort of return, it's one way, shape, or form. uh, it will always come back to you, whether it's an introduction to a new relationship that leads somewhere, whether it is monetary, whether it is, whatever the case is. What's that like kind of been like for you growing up in the Midwest, having experienced travel at like a younger age, and then finally like planting your roots in not as large of a town, and then but still being a relationship based business, like what obstacles have you had to overcome in learning how to build solid relationships?
I mean that's a key component in any business or just I think being a human, like you got to have bad stuff happens to good people. Bad stuff happens to bad people and good stuff happens to bad people. Like I mean it's just what happens. And I've kind of gotten to the point with like giving back or paying it forward, if you will. If you're doing it with a thought that there's gonna be something coming back your way, you shouldn't be doing it.
Mm.
Um, if it doesn't make me feel good or my family feel good, and I don't mean that in like a way that it's like, how does this benefit us? But I'll use the example of like buying the cup of coffee for the person behind you in line at Starbucks. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Because ultimately, something's not going to happen with that person that they're all going to suddenly grace my doors and be like, I want to buy a new toolbox. It ain't going to happen, right? So, from a monetary aspect, coming back to our business, it's not. But if I want to do something like that, just because I want to out of the kindness of my heart for whatever reason, or like we sponsored a board at the school. They needed a new school or scoreboard, and we committed to that. Am I going to sell more tools because my name's on the school board? Probably not, right? But it's really cool when I'm sitting at a football game or a track event and they have stuff up there, our name's up there, and that makes me feel good, right? And I think whenever you can make positivity happen in your world, like the universe is pretty simple. And I always kind of feel like if I do the right thing, good things are going to come back to me. And people that just are always negative, don't know, they're all about me, they're just totally internalized and central on themselves, they don't seem to get lucky. And well, why is that? I don't think it has anything to do with luck. I think it's because they're putting out the wrong aura, and that's just affecting what they get in return.
Mm.
So, yeah, that's if we give back because we want to, because of whatever reason that is, or what emotional reaction it makes us do, and we hope for the best for it. We don't expect anything in return, and yeah,
You
that's what
know,
happens.
it's ironic. I feel like I've said it like 10 times on this
You have,
episode.
you have.
uh, but it's funny to me because again, and I'm glad we're having this conversation out loud. It's not like just in my head because these are the types of things that I think about. Because like, I look at quotes like the Zig Ziglar quote, like you help enough people get what they want and they'll help you get what you want. It's not like, oh, I'm going out there to help these people because like I know if I help 10 guys that I've already helped two, I just need to help eight more guys and I'll get what I want. It's not like
Yeah,
weighed like that, like on a scale. However, it's like what you just said though is like it does come back to you. And the
yeah,
conversation came, forgot who I was talking to this. I don't know if it was a podcast or just a call or what, but I was like expressing some internal just dialogue I was having about like some powerful relationships that I'm making. And like, albeit way out of my league, right? And and they mentioned this, and it was a study that I've actually read about before, and about how your body has vibrations, right? And happy vibrations, sad vibrations, like anger. Your body gives off these vibrations, and typically, like when with anything, you put two things with vibrations together, and one will pull one down, one will pull one up, like you name it, they interact with each other.
yep,
But the studies have shown that the highest level of output of vibrations that can come out of the human body is vibrations from authenticity. And so like for you expressing the fact like, man, like, bro, like I'm just doing it because it makes me feel good. Like it make like I'm not doing this for any ulterior motives. In my head, I'm like, but yeah, motherfucker, that makes you authentic.
Right.
And then you're
Right.
putting out a
Right.
better vibrant vibrations. And now like the world's
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, like this is all coming.
Well, so like, I mean, I'll kind of add on two things there with it. When I started in the business, like Jess, my wife, and I, we'd sit down and we had goals, right? So we knew where our path was. That's where we were going to go. This is our execution strategy. That's what we're doing. And when we started, there was times like everybody else, you don't hit your goal. You're like, it's Tuesday and my goal was set for Wednesday or Thursday or whatever day you have that goal set for. And you're like, man, I'm failing on my goal. Well, since I sat down with Jess and I had that plan with her, I could pick up the phone. Maybe my day wasn't going as well as I wanted it to for my goal, and I could sit there and be like, "Hey, babe, how was your day? My days sucked. I'd like to stay out a couple hours and see if I can make some more money. You good with that?" And she then knows like I'm not going to the bar, I'm not cheating on her. I'm not no, I'm aligning myself because I told her I'm going to execute and do this and I'm not there and I'm asking, "Hey, can I stay out late, work late, blah blah blah." In turn, when we had Lincoln, our first child, if I pick up the phone and I call her with that plan and Lincoln's screaming in the background, I'm going, "Hey, babe, just calling to tell you I'm gonna be home in like 45 minutes."
Right.
Like, and I'm hanging up and I'm like, I'm gonna have to make that up tomorrow or whatever, right? But with that being said, so many people get down and they're like, man, it's Thursday, it's 2 o'clock. I haven't hit my goal. This day sucks. I'm going home. And I cannot tell you how many times my week sucked, my day sucked, my month sucked, whatever. And like the ninth hour, last day of the week, last day of the month, totally not planned. All of a sudden, I stop and see this guy and I sell him 20 grand or I sell him 10 grand or whatever. And you leave and it's like, I didn't pray to God like that I hoped this happened. I just went through and did the things that I needed to do all the time. It's the consistent processes. I serviced my customers. I stopped every week. I did it. And instead of cutting out at 2 o'clock to go home and mope, I finished my day and the reward was there. And then if you can feed off of that energy and then bring it into the next day to set you up for that that success for the following week or the following month,
Mhm.
that's when it gets really fun because like you have to get to a point in business that you can play loose where you can sit there and you're not like, man, I got to go make another $462.95 before 4 o'clock. Like you have to be like, man, I've made an extra 5 grand this week. Hell yeah. And then all of a sudden, like this guy's buying stuff, this guy's walking on the truck. Well, why? Because you're just oozing energy and excitement and positivity, and you're just you could even consider it cockiness, and it's like everybody wants that and they feel it. But if I come in there and I'm like this and I'm all mopey, they ain't gonna want to do business with me.
Mhm.
And
Law
I
of
mean
attraction is a
that's the
real
big
thing.
difference in business and in life. You just got to have fun, man. And if people are around you that aren't having fun, get them out of your friggin' circle. Like get that toxicity out.
100%, bro. No, man, law of attraction is a real thing, and I couldn't agree more. That's to your point. That's something that I've been protecting. My life is, you know, I mean, it's a detriment of mine. I've got to remind myself um, that everything happens for a reason. And to your point, like I didn't pray to God to like, oh, bring me a new client. It's like, no, motherfucker, like you prayed to God about this, yesterday
Yeah.
and he gave you the opportunity to work that extra hour.
Yep.
Like it's not God's responsibility to just deposit money in your bank account,
Nope.
motherfucker. He
Nope.
gives you the opportunities, but if you sleep on them, then that's a you problem.
Yep.
So awesome, dude. Well, I've had a blast chopping it up with you last 30, 35 minutes. what is it we can do for you to pay you back for the time you spent here with us today?
Just don't waste your time in life. I mean, you only get one rip. Just go do it, like that's it. If you mess up, learn from your mistakes, because if you don't learn from them, then it was a mistake. But, just own your failures, learn from them, move on and do the best you can every single day. That's what it boils out to.
Fuck yeah, bro. I love it. Well, guys, if y'all heard something here that meant something to you, I mean, reach out to me, let me know, reach out to Dave, give this a like, a comment, a share. Like it's information like this, I think it's important that we get out to make it accessible to as many men as possible. Cause it's shit like this that honestly, the more we can surround ourselves with guys that understand this and are like-minded, I mean, the sky's the limit. So thank you guys so much and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.